I'm often told that some of my stories sound fake or too good to be true. It always makes me feel weird since I was there, I know what happened, but I often fail to remember how weird it is here. Sometimes I wonder if I live in some fantasy realm, but just not one of the good ones. Meth is so common around here, you don't even want to walk down to the river without shoes on because you might accidentally step on a needle and get super AIDS or something. And don't tell me that's not real, it happens. A lot. They don't call this place Medford for nothing, and if you think my stories are crazy, just look up this place. Back in high school, there was a guy who'd walk around town all day carrying some type of AR on his back. I never met him, but I guess his end goal was to show people that guns don't have to be scary. He'd tell people how much safer he was walking around town because nobody wanted to mess with a guy carrying an AR on his back. Or a few years ago at the Walmart, a guy was trying to steal a bike from some poor lady in the parking lot. She screamed for help, and did anyone come to her rescue? Actually, yeah. A man riding a horse lassoed the guy off the bike and held him there until police showed up. Don't believe me? I have the pictures to prove it. Case in point, this place is weird, but despite all the crazy juju, I always tend to have pretty decent luck. Yes, I did just knock on wood, and no, I'm not superstitious. Back in high school, I found $40 in a math book. It wasn't even my book, it was just some random book that our class had been circulating through all year, and one day I got the book, and coincidentally, I found the $40 in the exact assignment we were working on. Big score, especially at that time. It was the most money I'd ever had to myself. Bought my first airsoft gun with that money. I inexplicably always get 10 to 20 cents off gas whenever I go to Fred Meyer as well. This happened far before I worked there, and I never even buy anything there, which is typically what's required to get points towards gas. I don't know how it happens, but luck is luck. However, there have been a few times where my days just set me up for failure, and I'll tell you about a few of them today. These first two happened in high school. Now, I may have mentioned this before, but I used to suffer from bloody noses. There was no joke a time that it was so bad my mother called an ambulance and the paramedics had to help me. Once it turned on, it was like a faucet at times. It even got so bad I'd bleed from my eye sockets every so often. Yeah, imagine starting that at 9 years old. That's not the scariest thing in the world or anything. Now, I'm not saying that to gross you out, but to give you more of an idea about how bad these things can get. Well, I wake up one day and I'm getting ready for school. I stayed up a little late the night before, so I had to skip my shower. I put clothes on, went to brush my teeth, and just then my nose started bleeding. Some big burly douchebag ghost sucker punched me in the face or something because it was pretty bad. You know, one of those mornings where everything already kind of sucks and then you get blood on your nice shirt? Luckily for me, it was only one of my last shirts that I had left, but I took it off, stopped the bleeding, and got myself a new shirt that was up in my closet. Only issue was it was white, and that wasn't typically a color that I wore very often. Either way, I hurried up and ate breakfast and headed on my way to school. Now, since I didn't have my shower that morning, I just felt off. Sure, I had deodorant on, but I'm just one of those guys who don't like to do anything before a shower, so I was trying to stay as far away from people as possible. It was going well, until chemistry class rolled around. Chemistry was one of my favorite classes. We did in-school science projects and experiments, we tested elements in different solutions to see how they'd react. It was fun. Only problem was most days we had partners. Luckily, this wasn't one of those classes where the teacher picked for you. Hey Barry, I noticed you smelled today, I'm gonna sit you next to the cutest girl in class. Ugh. So I picked my buddy Nick. We're about halfway into the class and the teacher leaves. In front of Nick and I are two other students. One of them was a shy, timid, and all-around kind guy. The other was a wrestler, football player, and all-around energetic and physical guy. And once the teacher left, Eduardo the Olympian started telling Nick and I about how well he can perform a choker hold. See where this is going? He comes at me to demonstrate when I start babbling like an idiot trying to tell him that maybe today isn't the best day to do this. He grabs hold of me and says, "Come on, Barry, don't be a baby," and proceeds to start choking me out. When I wake up, there's blood everywhere and a bunch of students are gathered around me. Eduardo's lab partner is also passed out and Ed picks me up. I go to the bathroom to clean up and of course, I was wearing white that day. When I got back to the room though, Nick had told me what had happened. Apparently, as Eduardo was choking me out, blood started shooting out of my nose. The kid next to Eduardo thought he had killed me, so he passed out. Blood went everywhere, which is when the teacher had just re-entered the room, and I was out for maybe 10 seconds max. Apparently, though, for that 10 seconds, everyone thought Ed had killed me, which, looking back, is pretty funny, but it just wasn't a fun day. Literally everything that could have gone wrong did, and when my mother asked where the blood came from, I just told her that I dissected a frog wrong or something. Now, you may think that I was pissed at Eduardo for that, and honestly, I wasn't. It was kind of annoying, sure, but it wasn't entirely his fault. How was he to know my face was going to explode? And in the end, he stopped doing that to people. Most likely out of fear, but I liked the guy. He was fun to talk to, sure, but he was competitive, which I liked. If Eduardo was running you down, you were going to fall. You may not have known when, but it was going to happen. Well, it was the same day, and Eduardo had hunted me down to apologize again for what had happened. I was in PE on the field playing football, so he joined in. He was on the opposing team, so all I had to do was outrun him. But this dude was on the football team. He trained every day. Nobody in our PE class stood much of a chance, and when someone did get the ball, he took them down every time. And when I say took them down, I do mean tackle. There were no pansies on the field that day. Well, there I am, center field, and the ball falls right into my hands. I look up and see Eduardo darting at me full speed, so without hesitation, I took off. Now, I don't know much about football, but I know my goals are to not get tackled, especially by this guy, and to run the right way, which was surprisingly what I was doing. Every time I looked back, Eduardo was closer and closer, but so long as nothing went wrong, I could have made this touchdown. This is when a girl on my team runs out in front of me. She's about 10 to 15 feet ahead of me, and she just stops, full deer in headlights. All of a sudden, time slowed. I turned and saw Eduardo scarily close. I looked back towards the girl, and I had a decision to make. I could turn and avoid her and get taken down by Eduardo, or I could bash into her and possibly make this touchdown happen. I didn't have any time at all at this point, and not only did I hit her hard. I put force into it. She went down so fast, and as much as I wish I could say I scored the winning goal or touchdown or whatever, line of scrimmage, I know football, but no, I tripped over her dainty little body and lost us the game anyway. Now I will say yes, this day didn't get much better. Still had blood all over myself, destroyed the life of this poor able-bodied girl who's probably a vegetable now because of me, but I will say you can always find a silver lining, and the silver lining here was I wasn't tackled by Hispanic He-Man. Do I feel bad? Not really. Why not? Because I could still pin it on Eduardo, and that was good enough for me. Moving on. This last story happened a few months ago. I was going camping with a couple friends of mine, Alec, Trevin, and Natasha. We took a weekend and headed up, and I guess the first bad omen happened when we missed our turn and drove for 40 minutes in the wrong direction. We get to the campsite and we're setting up. Alec and Trevin are blowing up air mattresses, I was working on the fire, and Natasha was setting up the 10-person tent. Well, I start to hear her over in the truck cussing about something, but I just ignored it. After a few seconds, she called Alec over and both of them started getting stressed out. Finally, I asked if everything was okay, to which Natasha said, "We have our tent, but we forgot the tent poles." Right after those words flew out of her mouth, it started to rain, and it was only getting worse. We ended up wrapping the tent around a canopy that we'd brought and used that as a tent, but it rained so hard that it really didn't even matter. Natasha was soaked the next morning, it was damp everywhere, and starting a fire just took so long it wasn't worth the time. We ended up just cutting the trip short and hanging out at Alec's house. Sometimes things just don't go your way, but it's good to have a day of stress. Keeps you on your toes, and when I look back on that camping trip, I still have fond memories. The trip was intense, which is good because I sure as hell wasn't.